Let's go ahead and go. This is episode number 172 of the Homeowner Show. Whether you're DIY or looking to hire, we're here to help you find the best information and options for you and your home. My name is Kevin Hackett, and here with me is Craig Williams.
Hello, and welcome to the Homeowner Show. I'm so glad that you could join us for another episode live here from the Homeowner Show studios. How you doing, Kev?
And I'm doing good.
You got your volume up over there?
I don't know. Is it too loud? What's happening over here?
It's on your computer.
Oh, it's on my computer. What's going on? I'm just over here.
You're going to send back...
Acting like
still...
nothing. I don't know, man. Look.
Come on, man.
I think we're good.
This is supposed to be a professional show.
Well, anybody who's listened to this show for very long knows that that's probably not the case. So, yeah, we'll figure it out one way or the other.
Yeah.
So, no, I'm good. Christmas is over, which is weird because actually Christmas is not over whenever we're recording this.
When we're recording, yeah.
But whenever this goes live, this goes out on Tuesday, Christmas is over. So I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas.
Absolutely. So. Time travel is difficult.
That's weird. It is weird, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I had a weird experience today as a business person.
Okay.
So in the one hand, I had to fire somebody.
Oh, no.
Not from my business.
Okay.
I had to fire a customer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right.
It sucked.
Okay. What?
I mean,
like, I need to know.
It was...
How bad did it get? That's what I would need to... Okay. Someone's literally saying, come kill my bugs.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, okay, well, I don't like you anymore. So how bad did this get?
Well, having done this for quite a while,
yeah,
I didn't let it get bad.
Okay.
You see the writing on the wall.
Uh-huh.
You see where this is going. It's not going to be pretty. You're not going to enjoy me. I'm definitely not going to enjoy you.
Right.
I'm just going to cut my losses and hope you find somebody that can help you.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
And so, what? I mean, I need more details than that.
Well, like,
what happened?
I can't give like too many details because it's somebody's private information. But like, basically, this person was wanting. He was wanting write-ups for every little thing that we did.
Okay.
And he was like, well, I don't trust that you did this. And so I want documentation for this. And I don't think that you did this right. And so I want documentation for this. And you need to make your terms and conditions more clear. And you need to make sure your warranties are clear. And and it's like, look, we've explained all this stuff to you. If you're not happy with the way that we're doing things, that's fine. Like,
right.
We'll just move on. But like, once you've explained that to somebody, this is what's weird to me is that they're not happy, right?
Yeah.
And you've gone above and beyond to try and make them so.
Right.
And you know that they're not happy, yet they continue to call and want to use you.
Okay.
And then when they try and use your services, they do the same thing again and again and again. Mm-hmm. You have to let them go.
You have literally no other option at this point. Like, it comes to the point, it's like, I can't help you, right? I can't help you anymore.
Well, no, for me, it's you're going to make me miserable.
Sure.
And I don't have time for that.
And how am I not making you miserable?
But yeah, like how have you not let me go yet? I'm raising my rates. I'm trying to do everything I can to get you to go away. And it's like you're not getting the message. So I'm just apparently like it's like that ugly girl in school. That
just won't go away.
That won't go away.
Yeah, that's almost racist right there.
Racist.
We gotta be careful talking about girls and women.
They were all white.
But they were all white. Of course they were. All right. So here's the question. How'd it go? Like, how did the firing go?
Fine.
They were fine with it.
No,
issues.
They weren't fine with it.
Oh.
No, it was, but it's fine with me. They're not going to call me again.
Okay.
So, and then like the flip side of that, I had a new customer.
Okay.
And he calls me for like a specific service. And as I walk up to the property, I notice things that I can tell that another company has done some things on the property.
Okay.
And rather than, comment on it or any of those, I begin to ask questions. Right. Like, hey, were you having problems before? I saw this on the porch. Did you get, and in this instance, it was a termite treatment.
Right.
I said, did you have issues with termites in the house before? Because it may not be him. I mean, it could be the previous owner.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, man, I paid bukus of money when I moved into this house because they told me I had termites really, really bad. And I said, oh, okay. Where's the sticker? And like, if you're listening to this and you don't live in the state of Texas, I don't know your termite laws in other states, but in the state of Texas, if you get a termite treatment, there has to be documentation that the house was treated, and it's usually done with a sticker underneath the sink, on the water heater, or in the electrical panel.
Right.
And so I said, cool, man, where did he put the sticker? And he goes, what sticker?
Uh-oh.
And I said, well, sometimes they put it in and they just don't let you know. Let me check around and see what happened.
Yeah.
No sticker underneath the sink, no sticker underneath the electrical panel, no sticker on the hot water heater. And I'm like, bro, I don't think you got a good termite treatment. I'm like, do you mind me asking how much you paid for this thing? And it was like a third of what I would have charged for his house. And I'm like, man, that's a really good price. Did he just do like a small area? He's like, no, he did the whole house. And I said, do you have the invoice? And he's like, yeah. And so again, in the state of Texas, I don't know how it is in other states, but if you do a standard termite treatment, usually the chemical that you use provides you a 10-year warranty for the house. On the invoice, didn't even list the chemical that he used, which is a big no-no. Like, we have to have all sorts of documentations, as well as a disclosure document that the state provides that we have to give a copy for us, a copy to the customer, all this kind of stuff. And didn't list the chemical, didn't have a disclosure document, none of this kind of stuff. And I'm like, bro, I don't know what this guy did. I don't know what he pumped underneath your house. I don't know what happened here. Right. I mean, like, it's and he was like, man, this I use this guy because he lives in my neighborhood. He seemed like a really nice guy. I'm like, I'm sure he is a nice guy.
Sure.
I was like, but if I was you, I would send this guy an email. And here's the magic question: what chemical did you use? Could you send me the chemical that you used?
Right. Because
usually for pest control guys, that'll send red flags up all over the place. So as I'm asking questions, this guy is getting more and more concerned about his home, because he's like, what did I do? I mean, like, I dropped...
Well, because he thinks that he had termite issues.
Well, yeah.
Right?
I don't even know if he did.
And who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows if he got sold on something that he didn't actually need, or whether, they just came in and did the treatment, so to speak, right? Or maybe he just got screwed altogether.
Could have been. So that was number 2. Number 3 today.
All right.
So this was the confirmation that I had done the right thing.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. You could take this one of two ways, I guess. A friend of mine calls me and he goes, hey, Craig, I need you to come over to the house. I think I've got termites. And I said, really? Why do you think that? He goes, because I've got this box of Bibles in my garage and they've been eating them.
Oh, no.
And he goes, I need you to come save the Bibles.
Save the forget the termites. Save the Bibles.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
And I was like, I'm coming. I'm coming.
So let me get this straight. You went from insect micromanagement to saving the Bibles in an 8-hour time.
Yes, absolutely.
It's impressive.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And for those of you who are wondering who the third voice is, we have a great guest tonight, Steve Spoon from Victory Insulation.
That's right.
Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to have you, have me out here and let's talk some buildings.
Yeah, so let's start here. Tell us a little bit about you, and we're talking insulation tonight, which you know plenty about. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got into the insulation business.
So, funny story. I always tell this story, and I kind of jump in the middle. So I'll back up and I'll go to the beginning.
Pull it up just a little bit closer.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
So I was a police officer for almost 15 years, and I left because of the politics back in 2004. And I started my own business, and I did bed liners, and I worked for a great company called Ultimate Linings. And this is kind of how I got into the chemical end of it. If you've driven a Ford, Chevy, Dodge, or Toyota, I've had something to do with that spray and bed liner at the factory level.
Oh, wow.
While I was working for them, my son was a senior at Oak Ridge High School, and he decided that he wanted to start his own business. And this is the middle. This is kind of where I jump in. So I told him no. And I'm like, I am not traveling all week and then coming home and then crawling in an attic. I'm not going to do it. And, well, here I'm crawling in attics every day now. So obviously he won out. But the thing that got me was when he sat me down and said, Dad, I can work for Kroger, H-E-B, Walmart, and work all the time. And I could go work one job and make more than I probably make in a month.
Mm.
And I went, okay, you get it.
Yeah.
Right.
All right,
Yep.
I'm in. So that's kind of how we did it. And that's kind of how Victory Insulation started about 7 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then we've been really rocking and rolling full time since the plague,
Yeah.
came out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
So you guys were what, 4 years old by when time COVID hit?
right. And it was, we'd come home and it was always you do, grandpa's house and then grandpa's friends and then
Yep.
aunts and uncles' friends. And it was only word of mouth. We didn't advertise, and we always did some work. And when I came home, it was funny, my wife's like, "Hey, great, you're on unemployment and everything, but what's the plan?" Right? And so I'm like, "Well, the plan, I guess, is that truck out there. I'm going to give this a run." And I've always kind of had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit to me, anyway, from when I was little. And so I started, Facebook ad, and I started spraying Sheila she sheds 2 a day, every day, and it just grew, and
When you say spray and Sheila she sheds,
spray foam insulation.
spray foam, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Yeah. And so, my wife is like, "Hey, Skippy, nobody's going to spend money. Everybody's afraid, right?"
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, let's give it a shot." Right. And I was spraying those for about 2,000 a pop, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. I was doing it by myself. And then it snowballed. What would happen is once I kind of did a bunch of that, then they were calling me back going, "My house is incredibly hot." Right. And then so I started doing houses. And then from that, we started doing fiberglass insulation. And then from that, we started doing cellulose insulation. And it kept growing, but I refused to grow too much because I don't want to be that business that's got 14 trucks and 300 employees. And you lose the connection with your customer as what you just got done speaking about, right? One of the greatest things that I will say about our company is that when we do work for you, you kind of become part of the Victory family. We have a touch, right? And that turns into that friendship, and that friendship turns into advice. And I have customers call me all the time that I spray foam their house like 2 years ago, and they'll be like, "Do you have a plumber?"
Right.
"I'm looking for a pest control guy," or "I'm looking for, a window company. Who do you know?" And it leads to that communion, right? And
Yeah.
I think I try to foster that because I want my customers to be happy. I want my customers to sell that house and go to the next house.
Yeah.
And so with that, I'm not a salesman. I'm an advocate. When I go in your house, I'm truly on an advocate mode. And I think that's what fosters that friendship, that trust that comes along with that.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, I think that it's really weird what happened. You mentioned how during COVID, your wife was like, no one's gonna spend money. But what we have found talking to contractors and people that we associate with on the show is they were so stinking busy because people were at home going, "Man, it feels weird in this house. I need some insulation," or "Where
Right.
did these bugs come from? Like, I need a pest control guy," or "Goodness gracious, that wall looks terrible. We need to remodel this house." And like all of a sudden, contractors were getting calls left and right because a lot of people were still getting paid.
Absolutely.
They were just getting paid to sit at home and do their work rather than going into an office.
Oh, absolutely. And so then you sit home at noon in July or August,
Oh,
the hottest
goodness.
month, and you're looking at each other, you and your wife, and you're like, "Oh my God, is it always this hot?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then what would happen is I'd get there and there'd be a new AC unit already sitting, right?
Okay.
Or I'd get there and they'd have no insulation, but the AC unit is like ancient or whatever, and people are checking that off the list,
Right.
right?
Yeah. What's next? Yeah.
Right.
How
do I get this house more efficient?
Right.
And it's amazing. I'll go into a house and go up there and they'll have 12, 14 inches of blown insulation and they're like, "Okay, what do I do?" And I'm like, "Well, in reality, in the norm of insulation, of traditional insulation, you're good. You have something else going on, right?"
Yeah.
And then, we'd bring in like my AC guy or their AC guy and would start, what's going on here? You know, is this unit actually working properly? Or is it like a million years old and it's on its last leg and it's doing what it can do, right?
Yeah, I think so. When it comes to insulation, I think this is one of those industries where people don't realize the value of insulation
Absolutely.
until they get their heating or air conditioning bill and they go, golly, why is my bill so expensive, you know?
But the problem that you have is, I believe that you don't realize how bad it is.
Because you don't ever see your attic. You're not up there very often, right?
But your bill just slowly grows.
That's true.
As your insulation value is dropping,
Mm-hmm.
your bill's slowly going up, and you just accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And then pretty soon you're like, wow, you know, and somebody says, yeah, my AC bill a month in August is $150, and then you're like, what?
Yeah.
Why is mine $350 or
Right.
whatever, right? And I have a friend of mine, I won't mention his name, but he's like, people's bills are only like $150, and I'm like, yeah, what's yours? And he's like, almost $4. I'm like, holy crap. So my friend that owns an AC company, Brian Gessner, and we run over there, and I go up there, and he's got like 3 inches of insulation. So
Oh, man.
here,
Is that like when you say 3 inches? Is that like blown in? Is that okay?
That was blown insulation. And so here's, you know, kind of a funny fact that most people don't realize, and I'm going to date myself. Yeah, I was there with Christ at the beginning. But back in the Reagan era, they had a program called Blue Star Energy Homes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, you guys might not remember that, but they were giving out tax breaks to insulate your house, to energy improve your home. And all these insulation companies had these crazy, crazy claims. So the U.S. Energy Department did a study and a 2x4 wall. And they gave you exactly what the R value was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in that study, they came out and they basically said that if fiberglass insulation settles 2 inches, you've lost 80% of your R value.
Oh my gosh.
Now, as a pest control guy, right?
Yeah.
You're in an attic all the time. So how many times you crawl up in an attic and look across that sea of rafters and all you see is lumber?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They have no insulation. It's there, but it's all compacted. It's all compressed. It's gone. It's done.
Now, does it compress because of moisture, or is it just time? Oh, it's heat. Okay.
Time and heat.
Okay.
Heat. If you go up? So in the old days, insulation used to be itchy and scratchy and nasty, right? Well, that was the chemical that they used to bind the fiberglass together with. Now they use a cellulose product, and the cellulose is a sugar product, right? And so as it gets hot and age with the gravity and the moisture and the heat, it will kind of crust and kind of fall, right? So there's some of the things. So if you go up in your attic and you stick your hand in your insulation and that top part of it feels kind of crusty, yeah, you're kind of in trouble, right?
And at that point, we're still talking about blown in, correct?
Absolutely.
If it's doing at that point, the only thing you can do is remove it, replace, right?
Well, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll top on top of it.
Okay.
And here's what I say to that. Yeah, you can do that maybe once, but you start doing that 2 and 3 times, you're creating a base of nothing.
Yeah.
And then you're creating your insulation value, right? And so you really want to, you know, I go up in attics all the time, and I'll dig around and I'll find like 3 different colors of insulation. Well, that means that they've topped this thing off 3 times, right? So probably the first 6 to 8 inches of insulation has no value, right?
Okay.
Now we already know that blown insulation should be at minimum 12 inches to 14 inches to create the R value that you're really looking for. Now, I know that this goes out to everywhere, so every place has a different code, right?
Yep.
So like here in Houston is R21 minimum, right? The norm that everybody tries to achieve is about R38, R30 to R38, which is 12 to 14 inches of blown insulation.
Okay.
So it gives you kind of an idea.
Okay, so I'll just be honest with you. I don't have a clue what you just said as far as R value goes.
Okay.
And I think there's probably a lot of people out there going, I understand that there's something related to insulation called R value.
And it sounds like the high numbers are better than the low numbers.
Right. I'm going, okay, I think the higher the R, the better. But
Absolutely.
Can you kind of explain that for a minute?
So I would like to say that I'm like this really smart genius dude that knows all of the yada, 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 yada.
Yeah.
But really, to make this very simple, the R value is resistance between hot and cold.
Okay.
Let's just use that because that's the simplest thing. Now, R values is, and I'm going to take it one step further. R value really is a poor method of valuing insulation because R value works well for like a cellulose or a fiberglass, but it does not work well for a spray foam.
Okay.
It just does not because like an R value R21, or something like that is code, and you can achieve. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to let me retract that. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get the temperature from mitigating from point A to point B, right?
Okay.
I mean, that's what we're trying to do in insulation world.
Yeah.
And then we get into air barriers and stuff like that. But in reality, foam insulation, so fiberglass insulation is like 32% effective. Foam insulation is 92% effective. So 1 inch of spray foam insulation is 92% effective, which gives you an R value of 7. 1 inch of fiberglass is, I can't tell you off the top of my head. I know 3.5 is R11 in reality, but the foam gives you the air barrier difference, right?
Yeah.
So that creates even more of a value, and that's why R value is really an arcade kind of thought process because there's too many different insulations now that give you different bonus parts, right? So 1 inch of closed cell foam insulation is 92% effective, and it's going to give you an R value, the feel like R value of like 40, whereas it's only really R7.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying is it's kind of an arcade, the olden days thought process.
Yeah. So we've got multiple different types of insulation, right?
Absolutely.
So let's go through them for a minute. So you got blown in, you got
Yeah,
cellulose and fiberglass, right?
Right. So blown in insulation is loose fiber insulation that you process through a machine, right? It comes in a brick. You process it through a machine, and it comes out like snow.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So fiberglass in itself has no R value, 0.
Okay.
I mean that, big 0.
Okay.
The R value in blown fiberglass is the air trapped.
Okay.
So that's why it has to be fluffy.
Okay.
So I go in and I blow your house, and then you come in thinking you're smart, and then deck on top of it, you crush that fiberglass, and that square now has pretty much 0 R value.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So then you have cellulose. Cellulose is 100% recyclable paper soaked in boracic acid, which gives it a fire rating. Extra 24 minutes of fire protection above and beyond what you normally would have.
Okay.
So those are the two types of blown insulation that most people will do. And you can, as a DIY person, you can go to Home Depot, rent a machine, and go do either one of these yourselves.
Okay.
Please wear protective.
Yes.
Right? Don't breathe
Yeah.
this stuff, right? And a lot of people go, well, it's paper. It's dust. Yeah, but it's fine material dust with boracic acid that's going, and he's a pest control
It'll
guy.
eat you up.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
very cancerous. It's not
So-
good stuff.
So let me ask you this before we go to a different type of
Go ahead.
insulation.
Mhm.
If I were bringing you over to my house and let's say we just remove all the old insulation, so we're going to
Okay.
start from scratch. Would you try to encourage me to go with cellulose or fiberglass, and why?
I'll tell you, going back to fiberglass has 0 R value, right?
Mhm.
So between the temperature of 30 below 0 and 150 degrees, fiberglass insulation has an R value. Now, look, we live in Houston, right?
Yeah.
We don't see below 30. But every attic in Houston in August that's not spray foamed and temperature controlled can hit 150 all
easy.
day long,
Yep.
right?
Easy.
So you lose your R value at 150. Cellulose, due to the fact that it is a paper product, I mean, back in the Depression, they used to take newspapers
And
and
just
pack them in the wall.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? So it has a R value. So if we were looking at good, better, and best, I would look at fiberglass as good.
Okay.
Better would be cellulose.
Okay.
Because as cellulose compacts, it loses some of its R value. Excuse me. But it still has a better R value, staying R value than what fiberglass does.
Okay. So we got right here. We got fiberglass. We got cellulose. Cellulose is a little bit better.
Absolutely.
It's also a little more expensive.
No.
It's less expensive.
No,
Okay.
no. It's right in the same dollar figure
It's
as
equal.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go to another type of insulation. Let's talk. Let's go spray foam. That's
Okay.
the easiest, probably the next thing that most people would understand. So let's talk about spray foam.
So there's two types of spray foam. There's open cell and there's closed cell.
Okay.
Number one, if you are doing anything underneath of a house, and please, if you're doing anything underneath the house, contact your local pest control person and have them come out and do a termite treatment before you spray a crawl space, anything of that nature.
Oh yeah.
Because then the foam gives them an environment that they'll just thrive in.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. So now that I got my disclaimer out of the way,
Get it-
I made the pest control.
Get
guy
it
happy, right?
inspected. That's
Yeah.
really yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I actually make people either sign off and tell me that they've had it done,
Oh really?
or they take the responsibility that it's on them.
They just take the
Okay.
liability.
Right.
Yeah.
Because to me, I as I said earlier, I really go at things that advocate mentality. So there's two types. There's open cell, closed cell. Open cell, think of like your mattress, your pillow, right? Absorbs moisture. It's open. It's a sponge. Closed cell is actually that. It is a closed cell. It's very dense. It's a moisture barrier. So in wall cavities, I spray open cell. I'm not a big fan of open cell because you don't gain enough R value as opposed to the closed cell.
Okay.
But
Do you do the open cell in the walls because you want that moisture to be able to kind of trickle down to the bottom and
if we were in Michigan,
uh-huh.
Alaska, Canada, I would be closed cell all the way, and I wouldn't want anything to do with open cell at all. Now, a lot of my spray foam people will roll their eyes and tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. But the reason I open cell's a little bit less expensive to applicate in walls, and we're in Texas, we're not trying to keep out that north wind that's blowing 30 miles an hour at 30 below zero kind of mentality, right? Closed cell foam is a higher R value. It's a natural moisture barrier. Like if your house was flooded from Ike or Harvey or the tax flood or whatever,
Yeah.
I would try to talk you into going to closed cell foam so you'll never have to replace your insulation again. If your house floods again, everything else can be dried out. The insulation can stay where it's at.
Okay.
Okay, well, let me ask this then, because you just said something there that you would never have to replace it. So how often should I be replacing blown in? And so because a lot of people are going to listen to this and go, yeah, I had a quote for spray foam, and it's 3 times the amount or whatever. I don't know what the difference is, but it's a lot more expensive
Right.
than doing blown in. But what you're telling me is if you're going to live in your house for a while, it might be worth the investment. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely. So here's let's answer the first question. How often should I be looking at my insulation, right? And I think that on an average, what I like to tell people is every 5 years. You should have somebody come out and look at your insulation every 5 years,
Okay.
right? Because if it settles more than 2 inches, right, you're losing 80% of your R value. Now your light bill is going to start getting stupid, right?
Right.
So, I say every 5 years, right? We kind of covered, you can top off insulation, maybe once, twice is kind of getting a little risky, but that's kind of where I draw. Personally, as a professional, I draw the line at twice.
Okay.
Right. If I come up there on the third time, I'm gonna have issue.
Okay.
Right. I'm gonna tell you up front, I don't believe we should do this, but you want to do this. This is on you. But I'm telling you right now, it's not what I believe is right.
Yeah.
If we go to spray foam, that's a lifetime deal.
Okay.
It's never going to go away. You don't lose your R value. It's good forever, basically. I mean, by the time that you get sick of that house and move out, it's still going to be good, right?
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, well, let me ask you this. So we've got our resident home inspector
Are you okay?
commenting.
I want to go back to her.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm
her-
going to go back and ask. First of all, she said you're spot on. Your full inspection should happen every 5 years on this. So she's really
Sweet.
happy with you on that. But
Do you know? Have you met Ricky?
I have not.
No, she'll
Okay.
find something wrong with your house.
Yeah, she will. Yeah, she will. In fact, she said she almost always sees spray foam when she sees it in walls. It's almost always installed incorrectly. Is what she said.
It happens.
So here was her question. She said, "Is open cell foam supposed to have a spray coating?"
It depends on the code.
Okay.
Okay, so most foams don't have a high burn ratio on it, and what they're depending upon a lot of times. Like now, I'm speaking from Houston, Texas.
Sure.
Right. So
Yeah.
please don't hammer me if you're from Ontario, Canada. That has.
Yeah.
I'm just making that up. Right. A totally different code. Right. But most foams do not have an E85 coating in it, which is a burn rating coating. Right?
Okay.
So if we go to a Buffalo Wild Wings, I'm going to pick on Buffalo Wild Wings, but most of them are spray foamed.
They've earned it. It's fine.
Yeah.
And if you look up, it's all painted black, and that's
Yeah.
that thermal coating.
Okay.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So this all goes back to the fire that happened in the 80s in New Jersey, that the bar was all spray foamed and the pyrotechnics caught it on fire and it killed all those people.
Yeah.
This is where this all comes from.
Okay.
Right. So,
One person always got to ruin the party.
oh, there's a whole bunch of people, right? It's that typical, absolutely. So, no, it doesn't have to have a coating because you're using your drywall is your burn barrier.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
Because a 3/8 sheet of drywall has an X amount of time burn barrier on it,
Okay.
and that's like I said, that's here's code. Now, you might get in a different area, California, New York, whatever. They might have a totally different code, and it might require a burn coating, which is it's painted on just like paint.
Okay. Well, she's saying yeah, she completely understands that with commercial because that makes sense.
Absolutely.
What about residential though?
Nope.
No. Okay.
And once again, I'm talking
Houston.
Here in
Houston's
Houston,
code.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
is it easy? I mean, like even in Texas, I mean, there might be a difference between like Houston and like say Dallas.
well, give you an idea. Austin's blown insulation is R49,
Really?
but Houston's still R21.
Wow.
The common on the builders is R38.
Okay.
So code can be one thing, and if you're up that or above, you're better, right?
Right.
So I mean, it's just
So why did Austin?
it's Austin.
Is it just
I
because
mean,
it's Austin?
Yeah.
Okay. That actually makes sense to me.
Well, and so the building code.
No
Houston-
offense, however, a little
No.
bit. Okay,
No,
go ahead.
no.
No,
I mean-
Sarah lives there. It's every offense.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing: is code change generally generates from the west and the east coast.
Yeah.
And they collapse to the middle.
Yep,
right.
sure.
And so the new building code is supposed to go into effect. It was supposed to go in 2020, where every furnace had to have a fresh air return on. Every new build had to have a fresh air return, and it's still not that way yet. Right. So I mean, there's some stuff that coronavirus kind of gacked with.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and like there is this kind of weird thing where you can pass all the regulations you want. What kind of enforcement do you have on that?
Right.
What kind of? I mean, like really,
No, absolutely. I mean, and so
if
like,
it doesn't have any teeth, you're just not going to make it happen.
absolutely. And some municipalities are great to work with,
Mm-hmm.
and they're very open, and they like I'll tell you, Jersey Village, somebody did some remodel work to I guess a nightclub or a bar, and they needed a burn rating coating, and I called the guy up and I'm like, look, this is what I'm offering.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in the middle of I don't want to be in the middle of a fight.
Right.
But this, I've got X. This is what it is. What do I need to make you happy? And they were like, send me the specs. And so I sent him specs, and he called me right back up and he goes, yeah, let's make sure it has a burn rating of X, Y, and Z, and we're good. I'm like, sweet, right?
Yeah.
But then you run into a county inspector or a city inspector somewhere, and they really don't know, or they think they know and they really don't know, and they're in left field, and then you're fighting with them, right? And
Right.
because you're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
It all goes back to that, right?
Absolutely.
Well, let me tell you what. Like you have made a believer out of yourself to Ricky She wants to meet you. She's going, this guy knows a lot. I want to know what he knows. She's a home inspector. She's very, very
Let's
good
get
at
this
what
on
she
camera.
does. Yeah.
I got the
it?
card,
Okay,
Ricky.
here we go.
Right there.
There
I'm
it
going to
is.
give it to you.
Yeah, we'll get it over to you. Don't worry. Don't worry.
That's
So,
awesome. Well,
yeah,
Ricky, here's what I say. I say that home inspectors are the first line of defense for the homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a good home inspector, you are always seeking knowledge,
yeah.
right? And I've met some really, really good ones.
Yeah.
I've met some that I probably wouldn't throw
Yeah.
water on them if they were on fire. Because, I mean, they're in it for a check, right?
Right. Oh yeah.
But with every industry that there is, pest
Yeah.
control, computer, marketing, installation, you have really great people and you have some really poor people. What I have found in the years that I've been doing this is spray foam people generally are very educated, very self-aware and conscious of what they're doing, because if we're not, we put ourselves in a really bad spot quickly because foam, if it's not done properly, I had somebody ask me this question just the other day. If foam is the greatest thing since sliced bread, why is there so many lawsuits?
Yeah.
It's because the applicator's not doing the job properly.
Okay.
Right? So if you're out there and you're looking for a foam insulator, first question I would ask them is, what brand foam are you using?
Okay.
And if it's not an American brand, that's not your guy,
Mhm.
right? Because even though China and Dubai and they're bringing all these chemicals in, they're still blending them here.
Right.
There's still the quality control checks in place. That chemical, when it's in a drum going to said consumer, it's right. It's
Yeah.
going to perform properly, right?
Yeah.
You buy something out of a container that came from Beijing, you don't know what you get,
Yeah.
right? That drum set might be perfect and the next three might be just horrible.
Yeah. Well, that's really, really good information. In fact, one of the things that we love most about what we do is getting to educate our listeners
Yeah, absolutely.
on how to own their home better. And you just put out a huge nugget there of just things to ask. Like, how do you know? Because maybe our listener isn't from Houston, right? So how do you know the questions to ask? And that's a really big one. That's really, really
Yeah.
good.
Where's the chemical coming from? That's
Yeah,
that's a huge
absolutely.
one.
Absolutely.
So-
In fact, I ask that question of any insulation, right? Blown insulation,
Okay.
bat insulation. What brand am I getting?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, everybody knows what the pink stuff is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody gets that. I mean, that was the greatest marketing idea
Yeah.
in the late 70s that anybody ever came out with,
The
right?
Pink
Yeah.
Panther.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, think about it, right? I mean, you see pink
Ba-dum,
insulation. Hey, that's Orne & Corning, right? That's
Yep.
good stuff.
Yeah.
But Jet, Stream, John Manville's a great company, right? It's an American-owned company. These are the questions I ask.
Yeah.
Right. What insulation would I be getting? It's the same thing as if I asked you about pest control, right?
Yeah.
Where's that chemical made?
Yeah.
Right? Because
Absolutely.
I don't want anything that's coming from somewhere else in the world. I want something homegrown that I know that has my
And there's quality control with that, right?
yeah my
Yeah.
my safe and health
Yeah.
in mind when they do this, right?
Yeah, like for us, a lot of times people are very concerned about the active ingredient in the pesticides that we're using, which is valid. That's something to be completely concerned about. The one I'm more concerned about is the inert ingredients, the stuff that they're not listing
Yeah.
on that
And why
on
aren't
that
they
label.
listening to them?
Well, I mean, like every company does that,
Yeah.
because like everything has an inert ingredient.
Sure.
But when it's an American company, you can get the MSDS on that and find out exactly what's going on. Some of these other companies, you can't get it.
Sure.
Right.
So I actually want to ask you something about the spray foam, because this is something I ran into recently. And I've seen plenty of spray foams. I had one the other day. Gal was asking me to go take a look at something in the attic, which happens all the time. And so I was going up the ladder in the garage, which on these ranch style homes, this is kind of, you probably experienced this. Sometimes it's like in a hallway, but a lot of times in these new houses, it's in the garage.
Absolutely.
So I go up the garage, and there's the void over the garage, and then to my right is a door. And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. So I open the door, and as soon as I open the door, cold air, whew,
Yeah.
all over the top of me. And I go in, and there's a send and there's a return.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, this is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I go in, and it's really easy to inspect because you see where, something's been chewing on the foam or
Absolutely.
whatever. And so I come downstairs, and I'm like, why is there a send and the return? And she goes, I don't know. It's been like that since I bought it. So I start, kind of like on the show, I start asking questions to guys. I'm like, why is this I've never seen this before. And they're like, well, you have to do that when you seal it off. Otherwise, you're just going to create this massive mold, mildew, cocoon in the house.
Right.
So if you're then moving from, say, standard, removing that roll up insulation, or you're pulling out blown in insulation, are you then having to partner with like an AC company in order to do that kind of insulation?
I do. So I partner with, can I say the name?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Brian Gessner is a very good friend of mine. And when a lot of AC people, when they hear foam, they freak out because it's the typical, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid of what I don't know. And Brian, when we first met a couple of years ago, he was like, I love working with foam guys. A, you don't have to have as big a unit. B, it's just, he just goes down the line, right? And he's the guys, he grew up in the AC business. He's very intelligent. And I always think it's funny is because there's a system that his company does, and they call it the spoon.
Okay.
Right? Because I call in, I'm like, hey, 123 ABC Avenue, I need, and they're like, do you need the spoon? I'm like, yep, I need the spoon. They're like, okay, how many units, how many water heaters, blah, 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 blah. And it's, and so it's now kind of a joke, but the thing of it is you have to do something with that air.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to create. So you have the hot air.
Is this with either kind of spray in foam?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any type, because what you're doing is you're encapsulating that attic.
Right.
And that attic is going to be sealed tight. Right. There's no airflow. Right. So wherever your heat goes, your humidity.
Mm-hmm.
Everything goes up. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's trapped. So it just becomes this greenhouse effect up there. But if you lower that temperature, right, then you get the spectrum's not as far apart. What happens is you don't have the moisture because you're conditioning that, right?
Yeah.
So there are systems where people go up there and they put a return and they treat it just like another room in the house.
Yeah.
I don't go that far because I don't think you have to go that far, because I want that house to breathe to the attic. I want it to go back and forth. You'll have a lot of foam guys that'll go, oh, that's incorrect. You got to seal that off. It's got to be its own domain. And I just, in our world, with the humidity and the heat that we have, I don't believe you need to do that.
Why are they wanting to do it though?
Because they feel like that you have to condition that attic to one temperature.
Are they trying to get more control? Is that?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you just don't find that to be necessary.
Not where we're at now. In a colder region, maybe you do need to do that.
Okay.
But I operate in my world, right? My world's the swamp in Houston.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people will go, oh, all that insulation's got to come out, right? Because what it's going to do is it's going to create a barrier and this, that, and the other thing. And really not. It doesn't. But even if I did take all the old insulation out, I would still beg you, I'll tell you the story here in a minute, to put some type of insulation back over the bedrooms at least. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is all the noise in the house turns into a theater.
It's an echo chamber.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nobody needs that coming from the bedrooms. I'm just saying.
So you want to hear the story?
Yeah, of course.
So
of course we do. Now, after that intro, yes, we want to hear the story.
So I'm in West Texas, and I'm teaching a gentleman, well, I'll leave names unsaid, to spray polyurethane in containments, for tanking containments. And his wife, we've had a few drinks, and she's like, hey, keeps hitting him. Tell the story. And I'm like, yeah, tell the story.
Come on.
So, brand new build, ranch style home, master kitchen, common, 3 bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
The adult children come home. They're in the far side of the house. Well, mom and dad decided to go knock boots at Christmas time, and they had to listen to all of it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right? And so the guy's mad. He calls up and he's like, "You got to come out here, and this foam's messed up." And he's like livid, right? And he comes out, and the whole time he says, "I'm driving out there," and I'm thinking, "What's wrong with the foam?"
Yeah.
Right? So he gets out there, and the wife can't look at him. Right? She's mortified, right? The adult children are like, "Oh, this is just bad. Can we just tear the presents open and go home, please?" You know? So they ended up blowing some insulation over all the bedrooms just to eat the sound.
Right.
Right. So I'm a big believer in, if that insulation isn't full of mouse and droppings and urine and that kind of stuff, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? Because I'm going to put something up there anyway to eat the sound up.
Yeah.
Sure.
So why not?
Well, let me ask you this question while we're there. That's a great story, by the way. Let me ask you this question. So, what if I did have like a theater room or something like that, and I wanted to insulate it a little bit differently? What would you recommend in order for sound barrier?
So I would do 1 inch of closed cell foam insulation,
Okay.
because that gives you the actual air barrier. It's
Okay.
not going to travel. And then I would use rock wall insulation. Now, a lot of people are like, "Rock what?" It is actually a wool product, and it's been around since, Christ was corporal.
It's been. I've looked into Rockwall a little bit. It's been around forever, but nobody really uses it anymore.
It's because it's more expensive than what the traditional fiberglass is.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because it costs more to make, right?
Yeah.
But I did some research on this for a gentleman, and I found out that's how they insulate operating rooms and movie theaters.
Okay.
Is 1 inch of closed cell foam, and then the rock wall, the high decibel rock wall on top of it. And the foam is not allowing the air to move, to travel the sound, and then the rock wall is just absorbing as much vibration as it can.
So does that go up sort of like sheetrock, or is it how does it installed?
It's more like bat, right?
Yeah, it's exactly.
Okay.
It's
It's
exactly
flexy and
No,
okay.
it just rolls out just like bad insulation, and you just staple it in. The rock wall does.
Uh-huh.
And we spray the foam in between and then apply the bat.
Okay.
Okay. So that's great information, by the way. But next we got bat insulation, right?
Yeah.
So traditionally, I would assume. Let me tell you this. So if you were to go up in my attic right now, you would not be happy with me, because.
Right? Come
yeah,
on, right?
No, you wouldn't be happy with me because I didn't do this. But what's interesting is you go up there and it's like I need more insulation, right? It is what it is. But every once in a while there'll be this roll of bat insulation just there, and I'm like, what? Why is that there? It's just someone was like, you know what? I think we need some bat insulation right here, there, for no reason.
Okay, Ricky, you're gonna have to back me up on this. Seriously. I mean, you just don't randomly roll this stuff out, right?
Yeah, there's got to be a reason, right?
Well, you would think. But the kicker of it is
That's where the animal died. That's when.
I bet you're right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna look under there. I'll let you come look under there. Yeah.
Yeah, the things that we find in an
Oh,
attic.
I bet.
It's
I
scary.
bet.
So bat insulation has its place.
Okay.
And a lot of people, DIY people, roll bat out in an attic, and they think they're doing themselves a favor, and they're really not, because that 2x4 joist does have an R value, but it is so very low. And what it does is it creates a wicking effect, right? And I don't know if y'all have ever been out to a house before that's sweating like that, but you'll see the joists in the ceiling, right?
Right.
So that's why everybody really blows blown insulation in attics, is because you're creating that blanket effect, right? The whole thing's covered.
Yeah.
Bat insulation generally is more of a wall insulation.
Yeah.
In reality,
Definitely.
I mean, I don't know a builder that would be like, oh, let's do it that way, because in reality, it's not that good.
Yeah, and really, they make it a certain width for the walls, right? It's 16 inches or whatever it is.
No,
Because
they make it.
They make it different, but
they do.
But the reality of it is, I mean, it's almost the perfect size for putting it up between your framing, right? Okay.
Right.
Well, they do make it the size to go in the ceiling. I mean,
do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, well, and I think some people do it for, like, hunting cabins, or when they're doing like cheap builds, or
your DIY person, instead of renting the equipment and
Yes.
going through it, they'll just go get bat and roll it out, right? And are they helping themselves some? Sure, a little, but in reality, you're not getting the effect that you're wanting. in the long run.
It's almost like you're just wasting money to do this. I mean, it is not that it's not helping at all, but it's definitely not giving you what you could have done if you would have done something different, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so there's bat. I mean, just know that's primarily for walls. So next, I guess we've got like rigid foam board, right?
Yeah, when you're going into the rigid foam board and that mentality, what you're really going to want to do is that's on the building effect.
Okay.
Right? You're going to want to employ that
Early.
on your sheeting on the outside.
Okay.
And you're going to be using that more as a moisture barrier insulation across there, and then you're going to Tyvek across that.
Yeah.
Right.
So always remember, DIYers, please, always remember when you're putting up foam boarding, you need to duct tape the seams because you're trying to use that as an air barrier as
Right.
the best possibly can.
Right. Okay. So
Now you don't find that much in Houston. If you
Okay.
don't, now think about that. You're a pest control guy and you're out there and you're termiting, right? And people are pulling houses apart. You don't find a lot of foam board on houses.
Yeah. So I will tell you, like the way we do things now, we don't have to take many houses apart anymore. I mean,
That's a good
It
thing.
rarely happens. Well, most of it's due to early detection.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you
see it early, figure it out.
solve it early. Yeah,
Yeah.
before they start eating the house. But anyway,
Yeah.
So, all right, now we get to your favorite topic because I've talked to you about this before, which is radiant barrier.
So I'm going to make people's heads explode.
Do it.
Okay.
Please do it.
All right. So a radiant barrier has its place in this world. I'm trying to be polite, aren't I?
Yeah.
And it's
yeah.
not- it's
let's
not
try
gonna
to
happen.
let's try to be polite.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Here we
Okay.
go.
All right. Do your best.
So let's do this. If you take a baked potato, wrap it in aluminum foil, put it in the oven, 350 degrees, cooked, right?
Right.
Reach in there, you can pick it up and just barely grab it, pull it out. It's not going to burn you too badly, right?
Yeah.
Not a big deal, right? Cut it open, put all the chives and the sour cream and the butter, and it all spills over. Then grab that aluminum foil. And it's going to burn the living bejeebies out of you, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there's a protein that's going to allow the aluminum to hold the heat now.
To stay hot.
Right. So we put aluminum, radiant barrier in your
Yeah.
attic, right?
Yeah.
Great. First year, it's going to work just fine. And then it's going to get dirty. And now it has a protein on it that's going to let it do what? Hold the heat.
Right.
So now we're just heating our attic.
You've just made an oven out of your attic. I mean, it's already hot. Now
Right.
you've made it an oven, right?
Right.
So did they not know this when they started? Is it? I mean,
I
unforeseen circumstances. Is this what we're
maybe-
dealing with? I mean,
maybe I don't want to stand here and think that people did this with ill intent.
sure.
But man, they marketed the crap out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you can go into a lot of attics and see it stapled up, right?
I bet I tear $10,000 worth of radiant barrier out of houses a year.
Really?
Yeah.
And people are they're pissed because
Yeah.
it doesn't work worth a hoot. And just go up there and actually add real, honest to God, traditional insulation and put an attic fan in, and their light bill drops in half.
Yeah.
Because they got rid of the radiant barrier, and now they're ventilating that attic, right? I'd say about 80% of the attics in Houston don't breathe properly.
Yeah, we just installed an attic fan not long after we moved in because you'd go up into that place and it was just ridiculous. And
It was like it was a solar fan, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was solar. It's super awesome. It doesn't, it's got a thermostat on it, and it's all that. And it was like, I don't know, it's like $1,000 and put it in. You actually install attic fans, don't you?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I'm a firm believer if you don't want to go down the road of foam, which is an investment, right? I mean, you have
Sure.
to be in your house more than 5 years to get the ROI out
Right.
of foam.
Sure.
I mean, it's
That's
just,
not very long, actually.
no. But think about it. If I turned right around and told you I was going to cut your light bill anywhere between 30 and 50% a year, what would you do?
Well, yeah.
You jump
Yeah.
on it, right?
Sure.
But knowing that it might cost you $8,000 to $10,000 up front, it's going to take you 5 years of
To recoup
50%.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, right? So that, when I'm sitting down with a family, that's one of the first things I ask: is this house are you going to be here for the next 10 years?
Yeah.
Right? And if they go, no, I'm like, we don't need to go down this road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're just never going to see the benefits out of it, right?
Right.
So, there's number one. Number two is the attics in Houston do not breathe properly. You do not get enough airflow with just a ridge vent and soffits for the heat that we deal with. You've got to get that heat out of there.
Yeah.
So that unit is not working, in stupid conditions. I mean, John Carrier was a smart man, right?
Right.
He invented air conditioning.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
Where in the world did we ever think that we were going to take the coldest air in the world and stick it in the hottest place we could possibly find and expect it to come out at 40 degrees?
Right.
I mean, you got to get that unit down in temperature, and that's where foam works really well. Is you air condition that attic,
Yeah.
so that unit is working in prime condition, right?
Yeah.
So it's not working hard at all.
Yeah, and it's funny because we have a camper, right? And I think a lot of people that buy campers, they go out into, in the summer, it's like, oh, we're gonna go to the beach, we're gonna take this into the beach, and it's 102 degrees outside, right? And they're like, it's hot as crap in my RV. This thing isn't worth a dang over here. Like, what's going on? I bought this thing. It cost $40,000 and it's so hot. And it's like, look, that air conditioner has cooled your rig down 25 degrees. I'm sorry it's not 70 degrees, but it did the best that it could. It's actually doing exactly what it's designed to do.
Right.
But
Park it in the shade.
that's exactly right. Like, you got to find a way to actually get the value out of. I mean, it's doing what it's supposed to do. So it's like, okay, this is like, like a cake that you got to build, right? You got to have a layer upon a layer upon a layer, and you can't get the most out of your air conditioner. In fact, if you want the best way that I don't know a lot. That everybody understands that, right, Craig?
Yep.
You want to chime in here for a minute?
I can confirm that.
Okay. I don't know a lot, but here's what I do know, just because I listen every once in a while, and that is that your air conditioner is not going to last very long the way you want it to. You spent thousands and thousands of dollars on that thing.
That's right.
You even had it installed correctly by, Affordable Air, because they're awesome. And your guy, what's his name?
Brian Gessner.
There you go.
Prestige.
Prestige, yeah.
Prestige. All right. So we got a couple of really good options here. You have one of those guys that do it right.
Right.
But you didn't do your insulation, and so now you're frustrated with your HVAC guy. But at the really, you need to be frustrated yourself because
Well,
you didn't properly do all the things you needed to do.
So as a homeowner, what I would say, and just piggybacking off what you're saying, what I would say is in August, right? Hottest. I mean, Satan's balls hot. I mean, it's nasty in Houston, right? I mean,
Yes.
150 degree, attics, you have 100% humidity. You can slice with a knife and just like a shower curtain, and you're just walking through it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Go in a house, look at all your register vents. If there's moisture on those register vents, or
Yeah.
if you see mold on those register vents,
Yeah.
you don't have enough insulation.
Yeah, we actually had that issue not too long ago. I was like, is it raining in here? Nope. That's just condensation coming down from the register. It's like,
I got called out to do an estimate the other day, and it was a veterinarian clinic. And I'm walking around and I'm looking at this, and their AC guy said, "Oh, you don't have enough insulation." They just blamed it all on my side of the fence, right?
Right.
And that happens a lot because there are some AC people out there that are just like bad insulation people or bad pest control or whatever,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
And so I walked around in there and I started looking at everything, and I'm like, man, there's some funky stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and I contacted the owner, and I'm like, do you mind if I bring my AC guy? I just want to make sure what I think I see is what I think I see. So
Sure.
I get Brian, and I'm like, we're at a chili cook-off, and I tell him the story about this thing, and he's looking at me and he goes, that sounds like a whole lot of something going on.
Mm-hmm.
I take him out there, and Brian's, he's outgoing. He's very talkative. I mean, he said maybe 10 words the whole time we were in that building. And I'm like, oh, this isn't good.
Yeah,
right?
he does. Yeah.
And he takes all these pictures, and he goes down there, and, we meet with the owner, and we're having this discussion, and he goes, look, this is messed up from get to go. Like all the plenums, typical square plenum, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't hardly even use those anymore, right? They take it off of one large air run to a distribution block, and then it goes. They don't make big long plenums anymore.
Right.
This vet clinic was built within the last 6 years, 7 years, somewhere right in there. Had 2 huge plenums built, and I mean it's all wrong. They have air pickups in the places where they have dogs bathing, so they're sucking air into the system.
Ooh.
It's just one thing after another thing after another thing, and he just laid it out online, and that's what's so valuable about having a guy that knows HVAC.
Yeah.
Right, because they look at there is a true science to it, and Brian always tells people, look, I can put 1 million tons in this attic,
Right.
but until you do something with the insulation,
It ain't gonna work.
it's just not going to make a difference, right? And that's where you have to trust your trades to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But as a DIY person, I will tell you that if you look at your HVAC vents in your house and they have black mold on the inside of them, they have moisture, condensation in the hot time of the days, you have lack of insulation, and if you have that mold starting to work, you need an HVAC guy out there to fix this. I mean, you just do, because it's not going to be healthy for you in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, it's not just about keeping your bills down.
That's correct.
I mean, you're breathing in this stuff.
Oh,
and you're wondering why am I always like feeling chesty, or why am I feel like I've got a cold all the time, or what's going on?
well, and now that they have those units that they put actually in the HVAC system that will kill the mold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And
The
so-
UV stuff, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So it's don't ever use ozone. That's bad for you, right? I know you and I know this, right? but how many people will go out and buy an ozone unit and put it in their house? They think that they're doing themselves a favor,
Yeah.
and you're poisoning yourself, right?
Yeah.
There's a reason that ozone is not on the space station, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this. You can use ozone effectively if you know what you're doing. And you can't even be in the house when you're using it. I mean, because this has been a trend in our industry. It's like, look, you can eliminate pretty much every bug in your house by using ozone.
Yeah.
It'll kill every living thing in the house.
Even you.
Fifi and
But
Pebbles and the fish and
and that's the point, right? And but these companies on the internet will sell you an ozone unit to put in your house.
Yeah.
Oh, it's healthy for you. It's killing the bugs.
yeah.
And it's poisoning you at the same time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, everything, that kind of stuff comes at a cost. And so here's the thing, and this is what I'm hearing from you.
Mm-hmm.
Get the right guy
Right.
to come check your insulation. Here's the thing. If you've lived in your house for 5 years and you have not had someone come check your insulation, call
Absolutely.
your insulation guy, have him come out. And I mean, after you've listened to this episode, you have some ideas of some things to talk about. You know about blown insulation. You know about spray foam. I mean, get the prices, figure all this stuff out. But at the end of the day, like, this is not just about dollars and cents.
Absolutely.
It's really about your health too.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer in get 3 quotes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you trust your HVAC guy, have him come out.
Yeah.
Have him look at it. Have
Yeah.
him recommend you somebody that they trust. Right. I mean, look, you have to trust somebody, right?
Sure.
And hopefully you do your due diligence.
Mhm.
I mean, this is about more than just the investment at the end of the month. This is the investment in your home, your family, and in the long run, you want that to plateau together, right?
Sure.
I mean, to me, that's the way I look at it. And so when I go out, I give free estimates. And the reason that I do that is because I don't want somebody to be on the fence and think that they need something and are afraid that somebody's going to go charge them, whatever, $80 or $90 to have them come out and look at your insulation. That to me that's a land grab mentality, right? I'm all about let's do the right thing. And I think that's the law enforcement in me, right? You show up on a call, domestic violence, criminal activity, shooting, theft, whatever. I'm your advocate when I show up, right?
Yeah.
Victim and complainant. That's my job, to mediate for both people, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of take that with me when I go into what I do now, right? And a very good friend of mine, she's a business coach, and she told me, man, a couple of years ago, she goes, Steve, look, you're an advocate. You're a born advocate.
Mm-hmm.
Be that advocate. And I've embraced that.
Yeah.
I've made up my mind. That's what I want to be. I want to be there for people. They can pick up the phone, call me, have me come out. I look at your installation and you're good. I'm going to shake your hand, tell you you're in great shape. If you need something, call me.
Yeah.
You know, I have no issues with that. And that goes back to that trust factor. Someday, hopefully, they'll call me and say, hey, you know, maybe I do need an attic fan. Or, you know, to me, an attic tent in that hallway.
Yeah.
If your light bills say $300 a year, I'm just going off numbers I can remember. I think they say that you're going to save like $1,500 a year by putting one of those in that attic doorway above it.
Yeah, for people that don't know what he's talking about, I don't know what they're made out of, but like it's a zippered tent that goes over the attic ladder door.
It has some insulation.
And it keeps a lot of stuff out of your house.
does.
It keeps heat from moving back and forth, and cold air from moving back and forth. It keeps pests out. They're fantastic.
And just that, right? I mean, if you called me back and said, hey, Steve, you know, maybe I do want to do that, then it was well worth it for me. But the biggest thing for me is knowing that when I walk away from you, i.e. customer, that I did you right.
Yeah.
Right? I want to tell you the truth. I want to tell you what you need, what you don't need. You know, I want to make sure that you're sleeping at night comfortably, right? And if you don't get that feeling from a professional, that's not your professional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys install those attic tents?
We do.
How much do you guys charge to put one of those in?
Actually, the tent's like $100 or $150, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's installation as well.
Oh, is it really?
Oh, yeah.
That's well worth it to me.
Oh, absolutely.
If you don't have it, I mean, especially if you're in a house that has multiple, $300. I mean, it's gonna.
Yeah, because here's what happens. And look, I don't know. I mean, not every house is like this, but my house specifically, I've got 2 AC units, and the returns are near each other just because of how it's set up, and the only inside attic access, there's one in the garage. The other one is right above both of those returns. Okay? So what do you think happens whenever those returns kick on, because the HVAC system has kicked on and it is sucking air like crazy out of your house to cool down or heat up your house? That air is coming from upstairs too.
That's
in
correct.
the attic. It is pulling, if it is not sealed well, it is pulling out of there. And so you've got inefficiency galore, basically, right?
Right.
You know, you can't even quantify how inefficient that is, and I need to do something about my house because it's in bad shape.
Well, you know, I do know a good insulation guy.
Yes, do you?
I'm
Okay.
just saying.
That's good. That's good to know. Good to know.
I mean, you know, for everybody that's thinking about, man, maybe I do need to have somebody come out. Really, I mean, do your due diligence. Ask the questions.
Yeah.
You know, look, you know, you might be in Walla Walla, Washington, or you might be right here in Houston, Texas. You know, I'm a phone call away. I don't mind answering questions. I don't mind talking to people. You can pick my brain. It will be a quick pick because, you know, I don't have much brains anymore. At my age, but, you know, I will tell you the truth.
Sure.
You know, and I tell people all the time, you know, I'm kind of like a hammer. I'm pretty blunt. So, you know, I'm going to tell you right, wrong, or indifferent. And I'll try to do it in the best possible way I can. But, you know, that's the biggest thing for me is I like to make sure that people are standing on good ground, right? So, you know, if you're going to go blow insulation, wear your PPE, right? Make sure that, you know, you keep your fingers out of that machine because it'll eat you up like an auger. You know, be careful, you know, make sure that you're getting your insulation on a level at about 12 to 14 inches. And you want to dome it, right? So you're not blocking off your soffits. You know, there's some science to go in with this, and people just willy-nilly go along, you know, they just create more problems. So if you don't know, ask questions. If you don't have anybody to ask, research. call, you know.
And I'll tell you this: anybody who's listening to this episode should have a ton of information. Like I think that you've imparted so much wisdom and information about this topic because and here, Craig, how is it that we've gone 172 episodes and we've never had an insulation guy on the episode?
Well,
it's crazy.
I think it goes to show like how complicated homeownership can be, and how
agree.
overwhelming it can be.
Yeah,
and like that, like we have done this show for so long and have not yet talked about this.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, and so. But the good thing is, I think that someone could listen to this episode and have a huge advantage over the average homeowner who, you know, I think a lot of people don't really think about insulation until they buy a house.
Well, when you buy a house, it has insulation in it.
That's right.
Where did it go?
Where did it
It's
go?
still there.
That's
right.
right.
And that's the problem.
Yeah,
right?
and if you have a good inspector like Ricky, then they're going to tell you you don't have enough insulation, and so you put it on the report, and the homeowner at the time, they're like, okay, we're going to get the cheapest, fastest insulation we can get in this and get out of this deal, right? And at the end of the day, this is one of those things. It's really important. Get the right guy.
Absolutely.
Make sure. I mean, it would almost be better to say, look, could you come down off the price of the house just a little bit rather than you go do the installation so that I can get the right guy in? Make sure that I'm picking who does it, you know?
So I did an educational moment for a real estate company.
Okay.
Right. A bunch of agents, right? And the first thing I told them, I said, in today's market, I get it. You can't say, hey, that's deficient. We need to get that fixed. They'll go, next buyer.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so. And I told them, I said, I get it, but if you're the buying person, right, you need to make sure that you're taking care of your person, right? Yeah. And so like I have a great real estate lady I work with all the time, Mandy Poff, Valerie Blank, both great people, both in Houston. But you know, they'll tell their people right now, this is not worth fighting over.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
But it's not right. And I've got a guy, right?
Right.
But that's the point is if you're a real estate person, I told these people, I said, look, here's the deal. If you're the selling person, you're trying to kick this dog down the road, right?
Yeah.
I get it. I do. I get it. But if you're the buying person, you're their advocate.
Sure.
You need to stand on the stump and you need to fight for them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they just kind of looked at me, and that's when I gave them that 2 inches,
Mm-hmm.
losing 80%,
Yeah.
and they all sat there with their mouths open. Like that's the first time anybody ever told them that.
Yeah.
Right.
And they were like, I'm like, so you're selling somebody a home that's already 80% energy deficient.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
And it's not even hard to tell either because usually they have those
markers.
Like it's almost like a rain gauge that they put in the attic now.
So when you build a brand new house by code, there's supposed to be an insulation document stapled in the attic. You as pest control person, you've seen them, right? And they'll say this was insulated by this company at this R rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the R rate and it says, oh, we were at R38, 14 inches. And then you look over there and you see 10 inches.
Yeah. You're already bad.
Bam, 4 inches, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just right up front, right? And then sometimes you'll look at it and they'll say, R30 or R38. And then you look over and it's below the joist, which is 6 inches.
Yeah.
And then you're like, that's a house
Whoop. You're good. Don't worry about it.
that has absolutely, I know, I'm slinging my hands everywhere, sorry. So, you're at a basic zero at that point, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I say that about real estate agents is they need to be your advocate. They need to make sure that you understand what you're buying. And Ricky's probably, going, oh my God, he's speaking my language, right? Because home inspectors fight this battle every day.
Yeah. Well, and look, the reality of it is not that expensive.
You'll keep chatting. I'm going to grab. Yeah.
Go and do it. It's not that expensive to insulate your home. Mm-mm. I mean, really, whenever you think about all the different things, especially whenever you're comparing it to like remodeling your home or installing a new HVAC unit or all those sorts of things, it's really not that expensive to insulate your home.
No, actually, it's the cheapest of the bunch.
Okay.
Right.
There you go.
So if you live in and this is Houston prices, right? Of course.
Yeah.
If you live in like a 2,000 square foot home,
sure,
ranch style home, 1 story, and you need to add more insulation on.
Yeah.
Right. The average is anywhere between $1 to $1.50 a square foot.
Okay.
That's cheap,
Yeah, it is.
because I'm sure a new AC unit's going to cost you.
Oh, I mean, you're talking $5,000 to $7,000 for a new AC unit a lot of times, and maybe even more than that.
I was going to say more than that.
Yeah, but that's on the cheap end. But again, it's like it's like you're putting your HVAC unit on max every time that it turns on, versus going, okay, it's on a level that it's comfortable with.
Absolutely.
It's at a normal talking voice. We're not yelling, right? Anything like that. But it's whenever you have to start yelling that you get strained, and it's like, this isn't comfortable anymore, and it peters out a lot quicker than if you would have just done the cheaper route. Work these things in tandem, right?
Well, and that's a great thing to say, is in tandem, right? So do you want to run a marathon at a full sprint, or do you want to run a marathon at a jog?
Right.
Because if your insulation is in the right area, your AC unit's going to jog instead of have to run at a full sprint. And then, one of the cheapest things that you can do as a homeowner, besides insulation, is have an HVAC person come out every single year and tune your unit up.
Yeah.
How many people do you think literally have their AC coils that are 60 to 80% clogged with dirt and gunk and yuck?
Yeah.
So that unit's just humping trying to keep up.
Yeah, and it's actually really inexpensive to get on a biannual maintenance program.
Yeah,
it's like typically like $100 a unit, every time. So like for me, we got 2 units. Every time Jehu comes out with affordable air, it's $200 for him to clean both of my units.
And he's so good, isn't he?
He's great. It's easy.
I know.
It's easy.
And Brian introduced me to him.
Oh, so you know the guy. I mean, it's awesome. It's like, okay, so I'm spending a couple $100, and he tells me if there's something that I need to do, or if there's something that needs to be fixed. Like, I'm just aware of the situation. And at the same time, I know that I'm getting a little more life. It's like this. Look, you're not going to drive your car 8,000 miles.
That's right.
And never get your oil changed because you somewhere along the line we have been lied to and told we need to get it done every 3,000 miles, even though the manual probably says about 5. But whatever, right?
Well, it's the difference in the oil.
Right? Yeah,
it makes a big
synthetic
difference
versus
in synthetic versus traditional. But the end of the day, you know that. Know I'm gonna maintain my car, but you're not gonna maintain your air conditioner.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't make any sense. But yet, somewhere along the lines, we've not been educated on the fact that this needs to happen, which is the very reason Craig and I started this show.
That's right.
Well, and so like when you buy a solar fan from me, right? Brian and I have a partnership that you get 1 year maintenance free.
Perfect. I love it.
He will come out and maintenance your units, check them out, change the air filters, and give you a year's maintenance for free by buying the solar fans, in conjunction with, we have a partnership with each other. And it's not that big of a deal. Right. And once I got on a maintenance program with him,
yeah, it's life-changing for your
I'm
system.
thinking to myself, why in the world was I never on one for the last 15 years?
Exactly. It's so easy. It's so worth it.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I think that's true of a lot of things with your home, that you're just too dumb to know all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
No.
I mean, but you figure it out along the way because, I let the disposal go too long, or I did whatever it is. Like I let the pipe get clogged. Whatever it is, you learned by screwing it up first, and then you and then you're like, well, I probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
One of the things I always tell everybody is, I sit a very narrow lane in construction. Very, very, very narrow.
Sure.
Really, right? And so I always tell everybody I like to operate in my lane.
Yeah.
Right. So when I go home, I inherit all these other lanes, right? And there are just spots in that race that I don't want to get in that lane.
Yeah.
Right. And you should know when to punt.
Yep.
Right?
And most people, it's plumbing and electrical.
See, electrical would be.
Yeah.
I can do electrical, but if you've ever, so I was changing out a ceiling fan.
Yeah.
And my phone vibrated in my pocket.
You about jumped out of your pants.
I don't think that I breathed for I almost passed out because I'm still holding my breath, right? But that goes back to the point, right? Is stay in your own lane,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not telling y'all not to do your own insulation. Sure,
Uh-huh.
that's not what I said. But what I am saying is do your homework.
Yeah.
Think what you're doing. Ask questions. And then if it is just a little bit more than you want to do, because if you're going to go rent a Home Depot, Lowe's machine, that's a full day deal.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're going to be there forever.
Yep.
My guys show up. They do it in about an hour and 45 minutes because like the machines that we use are bigger than this table.
Sure.
It's going to eat a bale at a time just like that,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, look, right? I mean, it's what are you comfortable in doing, right? But just always know, you know, it does not really hurt to ask questions. It does not hurt to seek a professional opinion, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and you guys didn't even let me get all nerdy.
You're welcome to get nerdy.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you'll have to have me come back and.
Well,
guess.
yeah, we
Then-
have to
then
save
I
it
can-
up for the next one.
Yeah, then I can come back and get real nerdy.
we're fine
I'll
with
pull
that.
out charts and float, you know, that kind of stuff.
That
But
would be fine.
let me ask you this, because I don't think this
Sure.
will be too nerdy, and we can save the nerdness for the next time. But what are some big mistakes that you're? And I'm asking this for a particular reason. You mentioned real estate earlier. I know a lot of people, because they're looking at their house that they're living in. They're going, I can get a lot of money for this house, but I can't buy another one because there's like it's next to impossible. A lot of people are opting to build homes. You know, what are some big mistakes that you're seeing builders make with insulation in the home?
What I see is, I'm just going to jump right into foam,
Okay.
okay? Because that's really where insulation is going.
Is that where all the
It's going that way. If you go west out of Houston, everything's foam.
okay?
Lubbock, Midland, Odessa, you start getting that Abilene. Pretty 90% of your people are all foam and everything, right?
Okay.
You go east out of Louisiana, going Georgia, that direction, and you see so much more foam than you do here. Here got a bad name because they really started out and they tightened the house up too tight and it started sweating
Yeah, because
nobody knew
Yeah.
how to do it, right?
Right.
And so now everybody's got it figured out,
Okay.
or a decent contractor will know how to do this. But what I see is there's a huge debate of like, will it void my warranties on shingles, right? Will it void this warranty and this kind of stuff, right? If it's applied properly, it's good. I'm not a firm believer in open cell foam in a roof deck because to get to R21, you have to get like 6 to 7 inches of open cell foam.
Well, that's a lot.
And so you're cooking the OBS and the shingles because it's just getting hotter and hotter and hotter. I'm a firm believer in closed cell foam because you only have to get 3 inches.
Okay.
The heat transfer is almost like 96%. It's going to cut off the heat transfer, right? So you're not getting enough foam to cook everything, and you're gaining an immediate moisture barrier on your roof deck. So, you know, I hear all these builders, oh, well, if I have a leak, I don't know where it's at. As a homeowner, I'm like, if I have a leak, I don't give a shit where it's at, as long as it's not raining down in my living room, ruining the rest of my house, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So if you have to re-roof 3/4 of my roof because it rotted something out, so be it. That's cheaper than having water restoration come in and rebuild my house.
Well, the insurance company's got to prefer that as well.
You would think,
Yeah.
right? So, and I don't know if they do or not. So
We'll have to find that one out.
Yeah. I think we know a couple of those guys.
We know a couple of those guys.
Yeah.
But that is one of the misconceptions is, well, if it's open cell foam, I'll be able to see the leak. Well, that's a sponge. It's going to soak up the whole roof, and it's
Yeah.
just going to rain water.
Yeah.
Right? So there's one. Number two is the thought process. If I tighten my house up too tight, you know, it's going to sweat on the interior.
Right.
And yes, it would, but that's where the fresh air return comes in. That's where conditioning the attic comes in. There's some science that goes with this now.
Sure.
So people try to scare you out of foam because they don't know how to work with foam.
Okay.
There's a subdivision off of Cypress that a builder built with foam, and he didn't do anything with the attics. He just foamed them, and they're mold, all of them, full of it, because he didn't
Didn't know what he was doing.
right. And I don't know who the builder is, so I don't.
Yeah.
but
Well, we don't need to be
But then again,
Yeah.
there's another not a track builder, but a custom home builder that builds multiple versions, and he puts a Reese's candy bar up in the attic in August, and he invites you to go up there and look at it, and it's not melted. And there's no mold, and there's nothing else, because he gets it. He understands it. So it goes back to your homework a little bit.
He also knows how to lure me into an attic.
Right. I mean, I'm just sitting here going, where are these homes? I'm a little hungry.
They come with
now.
free Reese's?
Right. Hey, have you tried the big cups?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I don't care if it's a right Twix or a left Twix.
Yeah.
They're all good.
They're all good. A Twix is good.
So, well, let me ask you this, because you were mentioning shingles. Is there a roof material that might work better with foam? Like, does it operate better with like metal or clay or
No, there's not.
maybe
And
even slate?
They all work well together. The problem that you have is there are certain shingle manufacturers that produce insulation.
Okay.
And so they will do everything in their power to make it the foam's fault.
Ah.
Right?
Oh, okay.
Like Certainty shingles. Now, I'm not saying, I'm just picking on them. I don't have any case study. I don't have anything that says that they've ever done this, but I'm going to use that for an example.
Sure.
It's like I blow most all of my fiberglass is either John Manville or Certainty,
Okay.
depending on who's got what in the shortage of life, right?
Right.
But Certainty makes shingles,
Mm-hmm.
and so there's a huge conflict of interest there, right? And so you've got to be careful about that because the crossover, right? They don't want foam because they want you to blow insulation because they want you to buy their insulation.
Sure.
Right.
Owings for fiberglass, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
Okay.
Right? They produce shingles, but where's their big dollar figure, right? It's insulation.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to be a little bit careful about some of this stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, I think we're nudging up on we've already been doing this for a while, so we are going to probably have to have you back in order to talk more of the nerdy stuff, as you put it. But before we let you go, we're going to have to do the segment that everybody looks forward to the most, and that is the Final Four.
The Final Four.
That's right. It's the Final Four questions we ask each of our guests, and so we're glad. I haven't told you about these, so you don't know what they are. So this is going to be fresh on your mind. So we're just going to kick it off. We're going to start it off with this one. What is the must-have tool that you won't leave your house without?
Tape measure.
Okay. Tape measure. Why tape measure?
Because all I do is measure day in and day out, right? I mean, seriously, I would say that would probably be the number one thing because we don't work off of square footage for the most part. We work off of board footage. Okay. So I'm always measuring, pitch, run, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think that's one of the misconceptions. A lot of people say, well, I've got a 2,400 square foot house. How much is it going to cost to insulate my house? I'm like, I don't think that's a really good way to figure that information out. Not for foam specifically.
But fiberglass, it would be.
Okay.
Because we're mirroring what the floor plan
What the floor plan is. Yeah. All right. Next question. You did well by that way. Did well. All right. Second question. What's a project you walked away from, or what's a job that you walked away from? So we actually we originally asked this question as what's something that you did at your house that you started that you wind up having to call a contractor for. However, a lot of people, whenever we wrote it, said, what's a job you walked away from? So maybe a career. But I'm going to let you take it whichever way you want to. What's a job that you've walked away from?
So there was a house in Louisiana that was all kinds of messed up. And what had happened is a contractor came in and they spray foamed it. And the spray foam was off ratio, which makes people sick. A lot of people are very hypersensitive to it. I could probably live in that house and I have a problem with it.
Sure.
I would say it was probably $1.5 million home.
Wow.
Huge. And every bit of it was spray foamed. And he wanted me to come in and try to coat it with something to preserve it and all that kind of good stuff. And I I didn't want anything to do with it because I knew it was a lawsuit coming,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to get drug in the middle of it.
Sure.
And generally, when spray foam is applied improperly, man, I've seen it to where they've literally had to tear the house down.
Oh, wow.
They just write the people a check
Mm-hmm.
and say,
Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
this
Wow.
is just bad, right? And they just bulldoze it to the concrete and rebuild it and sell it.
Jeez.
No, I mean, they don't even want you to take your clothes out. They want you to just walk away
Wow.
because the odor's absorbed into everything, furniture,
I mean, are you talking about like the insurance company or?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they just want you to walk away from it because they don't want you to take that to your next house and have an issue with it.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts, dude.
And I went in there and I felt just horrible for the guy, but I was just like, I don't feel like I can do justice for myself as well as the customer.
Right.
I didn't care what the check written was.
Yeah.
I really, drywall would have to come out. All the foam would have to come out. They'd have to come back in, check, make sure that the chemical residue was gone, and then you'd have to be able to redo it. And I just was like, I don't feel like I could do justice.
How do you even remove foam? I mean, is it?
Dig.
Oh.
Ugh.
Just
yeah.
keep digging.
That's tough. I don't want to do it.
Me neither. That's why I walked away from it.
Do you know if they ended up just leveling that house, or you
I
don't even know?
Last I heard, there was a lawsuit between the foam manufacturer, the applicator, the home builder, and they were all suing each other.
Oh, that's a mess.
And we know the chemical company's going to win that one because, they're the big dog in the
They
fight,
got the
right?
they got the deep pockets.
Yeah. All right. Next question. How do you wind down at the end of a long day?
Generally by the time that I come home and, eat supper with my wife, we sit around, watch a little bit of TV together, and then I try to read something, and sometimes it's not even something that's educational. Sometimes it's just some type of book. Like I think I've read all the Jack Reacher novels. Just it's somebody told me a long time ago, especially being ADD as I am, that you can't go watch TV because you're being stimulated. You need to read something.
Wind down.
Yeah, to let your mind stop moving a little bit. And so,
Right.
I've read a lot of inspirational type stuff, biblical. Fun stuff, novel wise, just a little bit before I go to bed.
Yeah. All right. Craig.
What's been your best one over the last 2 years?
Life's Golden Ticket.
Who's that by?
Are you gonna make a liar out of him?
No, not at all. I
knows
got
it.
Just give me a second.
He knows it.
I do.
This is like one of Craig's favorite things. Whenever people say they like to read,
Yeah, I
Craig
want to know.
loves knowing more information. 'Cause
Brendan
Craig's a big reader.
Butchard.
Okay.
Somebody, Kenny King.
This is the business coach. Okay.
She told me, she goes, I go like, look, I go on stretches, and everybody I see, I sell. Just one right after another, and then I go stretches where I can't get anybody to bite.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And she
Yeah.
goes, whoa, it's not you. Are you doing the same thing you were doing before? I'm like, yeah. She goes, that's not you. That's them.
Mm-hmm.
That's can't afford it, undecided, whatever, but that's on their side of the fence. You're doing it right. She goes, you need to read this book. And it's all about, it's a fictional novel about a gentleman going through a journey, and it's all about rewriting self-talk.
Okay.
Because look, business owners, we're bad at this.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we are negative on ourselves more than anybody.
Yep.
I might leave that house that you had to fire, right?
Mhm.
That customer, and I might be just beating myself up over it because some coach told me I was too slow, or a math teacher in high school said I was stupid and I'd never be anything, or whatever. And that's the voice you hear
Yeah.
as you're walking away, right? And you need to learn how to rewrite. I know I keep hitting that light. I'm sorry.
You hadn't knocked it over yet.
Well, that's one thing I haven't. But that's something that you have to protect yourself from is self-talk.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole, but that 1 hour meeting with her, just getting to know her, literally changed the way I do business.
Yeah.
I mean, that book was probably one of the most profound books I think I've ever read, and I think that it really made me address some things in my life that I didn't think I had addressed, like my mom's death. You know, typical police officer, right? You know, you go straight into take care of everybody, advocate mode, right? Take care of everybody, but you're not going to go deal with it yourself.
Right.
And that made me step back and go, oh,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute, you know? And so that was probably one of the most profound books I've read.
Awesome. We'll
Cool.
check it out.
I love it. All right, next question, last one. What's one of the best pieces of wisdom or advice you've ever received?
I don't remember who told me this, but it's, you want to be the man that your children think you are.
I love that.
Yeah, that's good.
You're honest, you're caring, you're trustworthy, you show up, you do these things. And when you look in your children's eyes, you know, they're looking at something that you don't know that you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you got to show up, right? So you want to be the man that your children think you are.
I love
right?
that.
And that's probably been the most profound thing. And that's made me make decisions. You know, there's been times where I've stepped back and went, maybe I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because what would they think if I did this? If I
Yeah.
quit here or I didn't try hard enough there? You know, I mean, so I think that's one of the reasons I think I'm where I'm at now is because I'm trying to be, you know, the dad that I want my kids to, you know, be, right?
Yeah.
Or you know, see.
Yeah.
Right. Man, I love that. That's really, really good stuff.
I got deep at the end. Didn't
No,
I?
that's good.
No,
Yeah.
we facilitated that. We actually got you there, right? But
All right.
but here's the problem.
Oh God.
We actually lied a little bit.
Yep.
And there's a secret fifth question, and so Craig's the only one that can ask this question because he's the only one he remembers.
That's true.
So here's the secret fifth question, Craig.
All right. If people want to get a hold of you, how do they find you?
You can find me at www.victoryinstallation.com or my phone number is 832-693-8115. And believe it or not, that's my cell phone.
There
You
you
can
go.
call me directly at that number. If I don't answer, I'm probably in an attic somewhere.
Yeah.
And, you know, being a monkey running around holding on to everything as you go, I don't stop and answer phones at that time.
Probably because there's radiant barrier bouncing the cell signal off the.
Yeah.
Probably.
Hey, okay, so here's what's interesting. Here, I got two business owners here. I actually called a guy the other day, and in his voicemail said, "This is so and so and so and so. You know, leave a message. You'll probably be surprised at how quick I call you back." And I was like, "That's actually really, really good."
Yeah.
And he did. He called me back. It was like 2 or 3 hours later, but I'm like, I don't know if I ever expected him to call me back, but it was. He said I do it because it almost keeps me accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah. that
To
makes
go,
sense.
look, I've told you would be surprised about this, so I got to make sure that I do it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
So
That's insightful.
yeah.
Actually, I mean, you know, you wouldn't think that, would you?
No. Well, I mean, it's similar to what Steve was saying. He's set a standard
that's right.
by which to live up to.
That's right.
You
It's
know,
good stuff.
and he didn't like so many. I think this is the mistake so many people make: is you create a standard and you keep it internal,
That's right.
rather than saying out loud, "I want to be the kind of man that my children think I am.
Right.
I'm going to be the kind of person that you're surprised at how quickly I get back to you."
Right.
And instead of just internalizing that and going, "I'm going to be that person," you say it out loud to people, and it makes you accountable to that person that you say that you're becoming.
It's so good,
Yeah.
man. It's
Yeah.
so
So-
good.
Absolutely.
So if you haven't yet, we're going to put all that information right there on the show notes
right.
and up on the website so you can get a hold of Steve.
That's right.
Anything else we got, Kev?
Man, it's been really, really good. Thank you, Steve, for the time that you've given us. You've imparted. I know this is kind of a long episode, but you've imparted a ton of wisdom. Really, really good stuff. So we're gonna have you back at some point if you don't mind.
I'm more than happy
So.
to. I enjoy it. You know, this is opportunity for me to come out and get nerdy.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
You know, I mean, because I start talking like this at home, and my wife goes, oh,
Yeah.
she checks
Again.
out. Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
No, it's good. Well, thank you all you listeners that stuck with us for this long. It's been good, I think. And so, if you haven't already, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Do all the things. Click the bell. Go onto iTunes. Leave us a rating review. I can't explain to you how helpful that is to us because we have to keep putting this content out every single week, and if you want us to keep doing that, we need to bump up in the ratings a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
we got some people we need to
that's
overtake.
right. We do. Yeah, we killed Bob Vila a long time ago.
It's these home organization people.
I know, it's
thinking
weird.
they can have their own podcast.
Yeah, they don't deserve what we have. So either way, thank you guys for sticking with us. We appreciate you very, very much. And until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya.